Well, I mean, there's only so many James Corden pieces of content you can swallow before it just gets shit.
James Corden swallowed a lot of things. Our billion listeners in China.
We're not racist. We're just not cultured.
I'm not angry, but we're going to talk about this when we get home.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Not even a reaction out of you guys. Do you guys like that song?
I was about to break in with the bass. Welcome back.
Yeah, so welcome back Cotter song, isn't it? The original. I have no idea who actually sung it.
Yeah.
I do know that the rapper Mace did a rendition of it. The lyrics obviously were a bit different. I see the girls in the club, they're getting wild for me, and all the pretty chicks are all one smile.
You gotta do it in his voice. To
be fair, I think both of those were very much aimed at different audiences. Speaking of audiences, welcome back to all our wonderful friends of the show and critics. We're open for all here. We're welcoming everyone for another crazy installment of Idiots of F1. Clap, 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 clap.
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray! And riding shotgun with me this week are the ever idiotic Ev and Digz. Ev, a pleasure to see you again. How's it going, my friend?
It's the same as when you asked me 5 seconds before you said it.
Very good.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, moving on. Digz, Ev and I are relieved to see you alive and back from Western Australia amidst our initial concerns.
I'm back.
Confirming you're okay?
Yeah, I'm all okay. Bittersweet day, though. It's the last time I'll be able to talk on the podcast for a few weeks.
Bitter for some, sweet for others, yeah.
Yeah.
But you never... But just a reminder for all you people out in socials, I'll still be here to keyboard warrior alongside you.
Oh, they're so lucky.
Your thumbs haven't broken.
Hey, right, no fucking about today. Oh, fuck it. Who am I kidding? All we do is actually fuck about. But as we go about it, we've got a lot to cover off today. So from all things Barcelona, I keep saying Barcelona now instead of Barcelona. And what happened over the weekend, a quick, uneducated and completely unhelpful preview to all things Monaco coming up this weekend. All in the mix of our own injections of chaos and desperate pleas for attention with the usual suspects of Haas, you've been paying attention, what's Verstappening, and a new one this week, a segment we've donned, What the FAQ. We're getting more and more active on the socials, and so with that comes a few more questions and comments. So we're going to inject a bit of listener Q&A into the session and cover off some burning questions with industry-leading knowledge and insight. We can say that, can't we? Yeah.
Of course we can. We've got plenty of insight.
Well, depends on the industry.
I've also discovered that my opinion is very different to the YouTube echo chamber, and I get shouted down a lot because for things like, oh, I really enjoyed the Barcelona track. No, you idiot. It's a boring track. You're so stupid.
I'm looking at Ev here waiting to see what his reaction to your comment about your opinion only being different to the YouTube echo chamber.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Only the F1 YouTube echo chamber.
Well, that was just this week.
Anyways, I don't want to go there because we'll never finish this podcast and I'll lose Ev and you before it even starts.
That was me yelling at you.
Here we go then. The weekend that was. So the weekend just gone saw the F1 arrive on the man-made sandy beaches of Barcelona for round 6 of the championship. Now, officially tipping over a quarter of the way through the season, by way of quick context for any of those that haven't had a chance to dive into any of our previous episodes, and hence following the F1 journey through us, here's where everything was at before the Spanish GP. Right, number 1, Ferrari led both the Constructors and Drivers' Championship with Charles Leclerc. Number 2, Red Bull were hot on their heels, having overcome some early round reliability issues, closing the gap in both championship with Max Verstappen lining up for his 3rd win in a row. Number 3, Mercedes has been way off the mark. The previous 8-time Constructor champions have been really struggling with the new car regulations and getting that car to perform to a level we're all used to and have been light years away from the other teams. That said, new recruit, Digby's favourite, Georgie boy, George Russell, has been a star of hope as the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has been but a shadow of his former self, performance and attitude-wise. We'll touch on that later. And lastly, prospects AlphaTauri, McLaren and Aston Martin have been woeful. Alfa Romeo and Haas to some extent beating expectations, Alpine the best of the rest, and Williams is just being Williams. Now, for actual detail and drama, you can grab that from diving into all of our previous episodes, and we highly encourage you to do so. All right, so let's turn our attention to the race. So in last week's episode, we concerningly flagged the potential of a boring race given the track record of Barcelona. But boring is not what we got. Whilst late night here in Australia, from start to finish and without the aid of a safety card, which we've hammered Miami for, the new home of entertainment, in another big win for the F1, the track sides were at capacity, the crowds turned up in waves, amongst 30 plus degrees Celsius temperatures across the entire weekend. And whilst not only to the benefit of all those bronze Spaniards looking to sunbathe, importantly, that sun and heat could very much be credited for the spectacle that then produced itself on track. So whilst I don't want to labour on it, but the track was scorching. We saw all drivers working their asses off to avoid destroying their tyres. And with that, all the teams scrambling with their strategies to determine and redetermine how they could give themselves the best chance of getting to the end of the race with as little pit stops as possible. I reckon it was the race of the year. Your thoughts, Digz?
Despite everyone telling me how boring it was supposed to be,
You've copped a lot of heat.
Oh God! It's like I obviously haven't been watching that long, but in my memory, every year we have a pretty good race in Barcelona. Apparently, it wasn't designed for good racing, and my favourite comment was, "It's not good because of the track. It's only good because the drivers made it good." I was like, "Well, the track can't be good unless the drivers are racing well on it, can it?" So,
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm sure Ev will tell me why I'm wrong in a second, but I wasn't surprised it was a good race.
It was brilliant.
I think there must be something, Ev, you'll have to fill me in here. Do people just generally prefer the tight corners where you've got a late break, easy overtake? Because for me, I really like that sweeping wheel to wheel like Max and George did. Like Max and George, watching that, I know Max had problems with his DRS, but ultimately it just made their cars a little fairer on speed, but that was amazing.
The cars are probably like too fast. They're certainly too big for the track, and I think they're probably too fast. So, for example, where the second DRS zone is on the back half of the track,
do anything.
It's not really. There's not enough of that for you to then like dive bomb down the inside, and then the second half of the track is so twisty.
Yeah,
you can't really overtake.
Unlike Max against Bottas, because he also did that. But
that's the exception.
I get all that. I understand that's why the track is deemed boring. But then, doesn't the first kind of part make up for it, or do people just want the dive bombing down the corner? Is that what people want?
What are you asking me? Why people are idiots? I don't know.
No. I'm just asking. Is that what people are arguing against?
Tell us why everyone thinks the way they do, Ev. Tell us.
I'm just wondering because is that what is considered boring? Because I would have argued that it's much more interesting to watch like your Silverstone.
It's subjective. Boring is
it's just the way they were talking at me. It's just like I was massively in the minority and I was very confused.
To be fair, though, that's social media for you. Hey, Ev, not wanting to labour on it. Yeah. But as an F1 diehard, you've called out regularly how shit it is for racing to rely on safety cars. And I guess that's the beauty of F1 and the real excitement that comes from it is that it's all about the thinking, the planning, the data, the strategy. You know, not the social media superstars, but the detail to the nth degree. You must have loved... And you must love races like what we just saw.
Yeah, that was there was lots of passing for the whole race as well. Not like in Miami where it all happened in the first 10 laps and the last 10 laps and nothing whatsoever happened.
So many pit stops. It was great.
Yeah, like that's really great.
Before we verbally spew everything and anything out that made that race weekend such an event, you know, both on and off track, we're going to work through the top 10 grid and intertwine it all in, I guess, some form of order. You know, like a bedtime story that calmly and wonderfully takes you on a journey. Or if you're a critic, like a 20-minute porn video that tries to tell a story with really cringy scripts and uniforms. Yeah, at least that's my understanding based on what you constantly try and talk to me about, Ev.
Yeah. Come into my bang bus of Formula One
boudoir
knowledge.
All right, well, look, let's start at the top. I asked you both a question in last week's pod to whether, post the Barcelona and Monaco GP, would we see Ferrari still leading both championships? Well, whilst I can't definitively remember your answers, the actual answer is obviously no. The weekend's race saw the second Red Bull 1-2 finish in almost as many races, with both Max and Sergio coming home in first and second, respectively. Well, that said, it didn't come easily. At one stage in the first 30 laps, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was leading the F1. I think it was incredibly something like 30 seconds ahead of Max, who was second at the time. But in a moment that was broadcast across the radio waves, everyone except Red Bull fans' hearts dropped as the no moans of Charles echoed across the airways as his car succumbed to a terminal issue and he had to retire from the race. So, Ev, understanding is that Ferrari have since come out and suggested that the turbo and the MGUH are damaged and cannot be repaired. A couple of questions.
Yeah.
What the fuck's an MGUH? And in understanding that each car only has set amount of engines per year, does this mean that Ferrari have to replace the entire engine, which could leave them begging later on in the year?
Yeah, it captures how hot the engine runs, and it takes that heat and converts it into energy, which then goes into the battery. It's a complicated piece of equipment that they're not going to have in a couple of years anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, whatever. So that helps with the boost. So obviously, yeah, something's gone wrong there where the turbos exploded or the turbo got too hot and
Okay. All right. So
yeah, I just wanted to say to all the Max fans out there,
Here we go.
yeah, if that happened to Max, do you really think he would have been like, oh no, like a cartoon character that's like running out of steam? Like he was so disappointed in such a polite way, and then like all the while Max is like yelling at his team, like blaming them that his DRS wasn't working.
Too many
like, oh my
times.
god, that's so.
all right. Well, so speaking of Max, inevitably, Charles having to. His car giving up on him, he forfeited what seemed to be a guaranteed win, and he left the door wide open for Max. However, again, that didn't come easily. So now, I always get a little nervous casting any shade on Max because there are some very sensitive souls out there.
I'll do it for you.
So we were again given just a glimpse into the version of Max that appears that perhaps when things don't go well for him. So again, Red Bull kind of saw some more car gremlins presenting themselves on the weekend, and in Max's pursuit of trying to get into the lead, we saw him driving angry and perhaps overdriving. I think that's what they called it.
Yeah.
And due to an initial spin and then some serious struggles with his DRS, of which in most laps it refused to open, and sometimes when it did, it would close again. And he got really mad. And Ev, you just touched on it, but he was screaming on the radio. And look, as a neutral, you kind of couldn't help but laugh at the radio messages. I couldn't understand him. He was hysterical. I can imagine you enjoyed that a little bit, Diggs.
Oh,
I enjoyed the frustration. Like I don't have a problem with Max per se, but I like when we're right, and I like when we say, hey, this is what happens when Max things go wrong for Max. No, it's not. That never happens.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what happens when things don't go right for Leclerc. No, I've heard him complain. Like you just saw it plain as day. He's polite. He's not polite. And I know not every driver's polite. I know that, but we're talking specifically Max isn't. We know Lewis isn't at times. But I actually, his DRS not opening made for better racing between him and George.
Yeah.
And I it looked like George, maybe it was because of his cooling issues, had a slower car, and it meant that it demonstrated just how good George was at defending.
Yeah.
And it made for a really exciting race.
Yeah, and to your point, and obviously, whilst it would have been hugely frustrating for Max, the team, and obviously Red Bull fans, it did, however, as you've just alluded to, result in some of the best racing we've seen in years. So don't bite my head off just yet, Red Bull Illuminati.
I love that.
Over what?
Sorry, I'll just interject because we're going to move past this. When he was like, the DRS isn't working, and the team's like, "Have you pushed the button?" And he's like, "I pushed it 50 times." And then, his team were like, "Just push it once."
Just push
Can
it.
you
Max,
you know
just
how
push it
when you
once.
go to unlock your car and somebody tries to open the door handle when you're trying to unlock it at the same time? Like, dude, you're getting paid millions of dollars to just press it once, you idiot. What do you like?
Or if you're playing a video game and there's a delay on the door opening, and you keep pressing.
So funny.
Come on, to Max's defense, it was
funny.
obviously not.
It's not his fault.
The
And they shouldn't
pressing
have
it
fucked
50
it up.
times is...
Yeah, and you're driving. You're trying to push it until it opens, and obviously not his fault.
But it wasn't like on the first lap that he did
No.
that. It wasn't on the first lap he did it. It was after like
God, that's
6 laps
funny.
of it not happening. It clearly wasn't working. But in Ted's, and again, I don't want to labour on this, but in Ted's notebook after the race, he talked about obviously how focused Red Bull were in terms of stripping huge amounts of weight off that car, and the question was posed as, did they do something to this to strip the weight back, and it's ended up just fucking up the DRS.
Yeah, maybe.
So, anyways, interesting. But going back to the point about Max's issues and the DRS issues and the racing that resulted from it. So I think it was something like 10 plus laps, but because of the DRS issues, Max couldn't get past George Russell.
So good.
And to some extent, yes, George wasn't as quick, but it did indicate the corner that that Mercedes car has turned in performance. And what we saw was genuinely a true testament, I believe, to why Mercedes brought in Russell, why he's been earmarked as the future world champion, and why he's undoubtedly one of the best drivers on the grid. Diggs, you're the biggest Russell fan on this pod. You would have been frothing on this. How good
Such an erection.
I think there was this excitement of anticipation when that first overtake. I was like, "Oh, this will be this." My heart was like, "Am I in there? Have I got this right, or have I got this so wrong?" And then he fought it, and I was like, "Fuck, that was good!" Like he was so
amazing.
good, and he did it again. Then he did it again, and you can see even without the DRS, the Red Bull was still coming up to him pretty quick. And then obviously
We had the slipstream as well.
and then he sorted it a bit, and he still didn't pass him. And then obviously they got him, and then Perez, who didn't have any car problems, just came straight through and passed him.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw on the F1 social channels post the weekend, but there's a video grab of George kind of walking down like pit lane or something. He's being interviewed by. And he sees all these cameramen come out from behind him and pulls the interviewer out of the way before she kind of got barreled over. And the caption was something like, even off the track, he's always got his eyes on the rear, and capable of just brilliant. But look, George eventually went on to grab third spot. But before chatting all things Mercedes, I just want to talk Sergio Perez for a minute.
Oh, yes.
Now, second is obviously a phenomenal result for him. We've spoken at great length previously to just how good a driver he is and what he's done for Red Bull that previous drivers couldn't in supporting Max.
100%.
But that support tag, and I'm putting support in inverted commas, was seen in full flight on the weekend when, after showcasing what looked to be better and faster driving that had Sergio leading the Grand Prix at one point, he was then given team orders to give the position to Max to inevitably let the current world champion go on to win the race. Now, Sergio understands just how important the team role is. You can't challenge him on that. But after coming out on the radio at the time and suggesting it was unfair, and then at the conclusion of the race suggesting to the team that a chat after the race about such decisions was needed.
Like a girlfriend.
I loved that.
I'm not angry, but we're going to talk about this when we get home.
Well, yeah. I'm just disappointed. But there's some cracks potentially appearing in Sergio's acceptance of being Red Bull's number 2 driver. He's claimed he could have won that race. And whilst Red Bull, and when I say Red Bull, probably more Helmut Marko than anyone, have since come out and said that Sergio didn't have all of the information and that giving up that position was the right thing to do. Ev, is it too early in the season to call or pull the team orders pin? And perhaps as you answer that, could you just quickly preempt what team orders actually are?
So team orders originated in the 90s with Ferrari. They didn't really happen before then, or at least not as tactically as they are now, where Rubens Barrichello was winning and he was told to pull over in like the last corner of the last lap to let Michael through.
So that he could get the world championship? Is that
Yeah,
okay.
And so it was so egregious the way that Ferrari did it. Not that they knew it was going to be like that at the time. That there was a huge uproar about this, that they had to do investigations because people lost millions of dollars in betting worldwide. And so it's almost as if, well, imagine if Ferrari put money on Michael to win and they could control the race, then it's very suspicious. And so since then it's become more of an understandable practice. We've seen it a lot with Mercedes, that Lewis is typically allowed to come first, but again, it's only really for the championship if somebody's leading the championship,
the drivers' championship, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Do the teams have, like, we talk about number 1 and number 2 drivers?
Yep.
But is this predominantly saying, like, and again, I ask you, is it too early in the season to call this? Because I can appreciate that. Let's say if this was halfway through the season and Max needed as many points as possible to stay ahead of Charles, you had to take, that I get. But I mean, we're a quarter of the way through the season. Why couldn't Serge?
What's going to happen? It's too early for this because Sergio is going to have a chip in his shoulder for the rest of the season. He's going to not care about this so much. You'd think, just like anybody, if you're in the office, if you treat somebody like that, they're never going to be fully invested in teamwork.
Bad team management.
And it's too early to suppose that, well, maybe
Yeah.
Max needs the win or the extra points or something. Like Red Bull seem to be doing pretty well right now. It was really. I think that Max would have overtaken him anyway. Max was flying.
In saying that, Sergio was supposed to have a 3-stop and they changed it to 2-stop.
Yeah. They did their best to make him lose.
yeah.
I don't know why Sergio doesn't think that he's not the number 2 driver, though.
Well, so that's a really good point, Ev, because he would have come to Red Bull.
He knows
knowing there was no way that
He knows.
He
He knows.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But look, when you look at this, this shows Red Bull has little faith in their own team to think, well, it doesn't matter if Sergio wins today because we've got plenty ahead of us and Max will end up being the victor anyway. So that's one thing. The second thing is maybe if they let them race because of Max's, aggressive driving style and unpredictability, that they may have lost both cars off the track, so they're avoiding that, and it's easy to tell Perez just to back off because maybe Max won't back off if they ask him to do that, and he's the golden child. Also, they wouldn't let Sergio pass Max when he was having his DRS
Yeah, they told him to
problems.
hold it 2 seconds behind.
Just twice, and so he was already angry once, and they do it again, and it's if you're Sergio, you're like,
I love Sergio.
Sorry,
Yeah.
It's just I get why Red Bull are doing it, but I think you're right. It's far too early.
There's a great question from kind of our social followers on this topic, so I'll hold off in asking another piece there. But just for anybody that's interested, if you want a true understanding of team orders and seeing that at full flight, go back to the last race of last year when Sergio somehow managed to back up Lewis Hamilton to allow Max Verstappen. It was honestly like I watched that and thought that's fucking
epic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was epic, and and Max came flying past and straight on the radio goes, "Oh, Checo, you bloody legend." I don't know what accent that was, but
reminded me of George this weekend. Like, imagine if Lewis was in front of George and George was defending against Max like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the wingman you need.
Let's get on to... Yeah. Well, we'll get onto that in a second because that's a really good point. But look, very quickly, stepping off the podium, we saw Ferrari's Carlos Sainz in 4th, grabbing the Scuderia's only points for the weekend after what was initially a terrible race start and first 10 laps from the Spaniard.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, and this is going to be a bit of a rant here, guys, I do like Carlos. But I'm not fucking backing him again. That's twice now I've suggested in Ollie's odds that Carlos would win a Grand Prix because I genuinely believed, and again, no actual expertise to justify, but I genuinely believed that Carlos was capable of becoming a GP winner in that Ferrari. But after putting in another reasonable qualifying session and posting 3rd, he failed to get off the line. I think he anti-stalled it. He dropped back to something like 6th or 7th in the grid. He left his teammate to fend alone again. And then he inevitably ended up in the gravel and dropped to the back of the pack.
Again.
Now, granted, he did a damn good job to then end up finishing 4th. I don't think he's got... well, actually, I'm going to definitively say it. It's an opinion, but I'm going to make it out like it's fact. He does not have the mental capacity to be a world champion. Too often, he doesn't deliver when he needs to. And whilst I know we officially drew a line in the sand to him being Ferrari's official number 2 driver some weeks ago...
In the gravel.
I am removing Carlos Sainz in featuring in Ollie's odds in the future for first place.
Smart
Diggs,
move.
if I ever mention Carlos in Ollie's odds for a win, you have permission to whack me in the balls.
Awesome, because I wanted to whack you in the balls last week because I agree, not definitively, but he demonstrated he was not handling pressure well.
No.
And then to come to Barcelona and that's his home track. There's so much more pressure. It's like going to be like Charles and Monaco next week.
You did call.
And it was. I didn't like. We agreed. He's capable of it, but was he going to do it? I just didn't want to back.
I'm writing him off.
And I need to see him do it first, and he hasn't shown that yet.
I'm sorry, Ferrari lovers. And Ferrari
granted,
fans. No.
Max went off at the same place, but he just didn't do a good enough job. Great, you came 4th, Carlos, but you're driving a Ferrari, mate. Like,
all right. So speaking of number 2 drivers, in 5th spot was Mercedes Lewis Hamilton, and I'm obviously kidding that he's Merck's number 2 driver. So calm the fuck down, everyone.
He is their number 2 driver.
You should. But the critics out there will be banging on again about George beating him. Now, all that shit aside, there's a few things to talk about here. So, Diggs and Ev, bear with me as I indulge myself for a few. I know you'll want me to get to the point so we can discuss it, but hear me out, all right? Now, look, I'm a big Lewis fan. I'm not a fanboy. I don't have an actual favourite driver, but I genuinely believe he's the best F1 driver. And albeit he finished 5th on the weekend, I believe he showed why he's still possibly the best driver. at least up there with Max and Charles when the car is on par.
Yeah.
And on par it almost is. So there was a huge amount of excitement from F1 fans in general on Saturday because Mercedes genuinely looked like they were almost ready to challenge for the championship again. They showed great practice and quali pace, and the porpoising looks to have all been but eradicated. I think there's comments that maybe in some corners it's still an issue.
Thank God.
But everyone knew that if they could sort that out, and Ev's been going on about it for a while, if they could sort that out, they were going to be a genuine contender. And in Lewis's race, I think we saw that almost in full flight. So whilst he only qualified 6th, it was Lewis's best qualifying all year. People knew that come Sunday's race, he and George would be in this race. But in the opening turns, Lewis and Haas's Kevin Magnussen clipped, resulting in a puncture for Lewis that saw him lose position after position, and he ended up just limping back to the pits.
Yeah.
Being more than a minute behind kind of the leader, and I think he was about 40 seconds behind second last place. What Lewis did then to finish 5th, and what could have been 4th had he not to give up that position at the end due to fears that his engine was going to die due to, I think, overheating. It was incredible. It genuinely sets up a really exciting proposition for a 3-horse race. But anyways, racing aside, I was actually really disappointed with Lewis on the weekend. So again, we've admittedly, well, Digby and I, that when we got into F1, we weren't big Lewis fans. When we were introduced to it with very little context through Drive to Survive, of which Lewis didn't feature in it at that time.
I'm still not, by the way.
Yeah, well, okay. But I found him to be a perfectly trained media personality.
Yes.
He always said the right things. He always behaved the right way. It all felt...
That's why I didn't like
Well,
him.
it all felt just a bit sus. So
Fake.
Perhaps a bit of lip service. But I came around and I found myself wanting him to win last year and cement himself in the books as the best driver on record. But following the incident with Magnussen at the beginning of the race, Lewis made a comment that, perhaps attaching itself to my, confirmation bias, it found me immediately questioning again whether everything he says is just to be said for profile, for PR, for me. I don't know. Look, I appreciate it, and I probably know that I'm thinking far too much into this, but based on the commentary in and around the toxic world of social media, I don't think I'm alone. So following the incident, and just for context, and here's the point.
Get to the point, mate.
As he fell to the back of the grid, Lewis jumped on the radio and said, "I would save the engine if I were you guys. Sorry." Pretty much insinuating that his race was done. In the first lap, his race was done, and they should retire.
Not the first time he's done this.
They should retire him, and they should retire the car. More or less, just wanting to give up. Now, Lewis has built his brand on this idea of never giving up. The still we rise mentality that he applies to his struggles as an individual, coupled with the struggles of black people and minorities, is a narrative platform that's been built on the idea that anyone can achieve anything if they set their minds to it and don't give up. But Diggs, for all the momentum that he was showing in the lead up to this race, and in acknowledging it's been a difficult year for Lewis, where was that attitude on the weekend? Where was the never give up attitude on the weekend? I'm sorry.
What attitude? He doesn't have that attitude. This is why I don't like him.
Do you actually believe that? You genuinely believe that?
I always had a problem with Lewis, not because he wasn't a great driver. He's a phenomenal driver. He's really good. But I always felt like you said, media trained, says the right things, always said, we rise above adversity. When he wins, it's all great. But when things go bad mid-race, everything is wrong and nothing will possibly go right. You gave me the wrong tires. We shouldn't have done this. Then he comes around and wins. Like, we know we have more faith in him than he has faith in him.
In his defense, he shouldn't have been on those tires.
No, but I'm not talking about this race. But he got knocked off the track. Oh, I'm sorry. He had that bump. Had to change it. He's like, let's give up, guys. I can't come back from this. And I'm sitting there going, you can come back from this, Lewis. We know you can come back. You at least get Tom 10. And his guys like, you can at least get 8th. We want those points. And they definitely need those points. They need every little point they can get. So again, it was about Lewis saving face than it was about trying to fight for his team. He's forced to stay out on the track. Drives like Lewis. He drives brilliantly and he comes back.
Yeah, I suspected it was just more epic disappointment that it's the first lap.
Yeah.
This is the first race where he's had a competitive car all season. It's also, they decided to give him a new engine for this race. I think he and George both got new engines. And so that's why he would be thinking, well, let's just, why burn this engine trundling home out of the points?
Right.
When the engine's really important. That's all.
But that's assuming he wasn't going to get.
Yeah,
points.
I know, and I am a fan of his, so I have my own bias, but I just assumed that was his disappointment talking.
I agree.
Not that it should have been.
Yeah,
As you said, his attitude should always be like,
Never
we
give
win
up.
together, we lose together. Like, we need to lose together here, Lewis, not give up.
I just expect that. I expected the mentality to be reversed. They're like, look, we should probably save this engine, Lewis, coming from the engineers.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Oh, that's
no,
true. Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
stay out. I can get us to 8. That's how it
that's a good
should
point.
be.
Well, Ev, now full credit to his race engineer Bono and Diggs, you kind of alluded to it, who in response to Lewis's comment said, come on, Lewis, we can still get some points here, indicating that, you can't just give up, mate. But Ev, can you just retire a car if you can't be asked?
No, you're not allowed to. You need to show like a probable cause. There needs to be some sort of a mechanical failure, or if the car's about to fail, you're allowed to bring it in. But no, you're not allowed to, like, if you're running last and you don't want to risk, you don't want to risk Mazepin crashing the car.
Just can't be bothered.
Yeah, you're not allowed to you just bring it in. It's against the rules of Formula One. And then
I'm sure they find ways though.
yeah, exactly. It can't be that hard to justify it.
They have commercial reasons not to pick the car.
Yeah,
too,
well,
right?
that's a driving.
Yeah,
it's
of
a
course.
300-kilometer-an-hour billboard.
Yeah.
So it's
Always easy to read when it goes fast.
well, yeah.
All right. Okay. So that aside, had of Hamilton not tapped out in the first lap, there's genuine belief and commentary from the F1 Society that Lewis could have actually been pushing for a win, at least a definite podium, possibly up there with George too. So let's hope for the sake of racing that this is not an anomaly and that Mercedes are back, baby.
Yeah, well, I assume he may have had that same cooling issue if he'd been high up in the pack from the get-go. I reckon he and George may have had similar problems, maybe because he was coming from the back, it wasn't so apparent.
Yeah,
Or,
everybody had the same well, not the same issue, but everybody had issues with cooling this weekend because it was 38 degrees, I think.
so hot. It was so hot. And Mercedes always seems to struggle.
Yeah, but I think nobody expected to be that hot. So the reason why Ferrari insinuated that Red Bull, Max was like 8 seconds away from starting in the pit lane. And Ferrari suspect that it's because they were running their fuel too cold.
Okay. Yeah, right.
So that if you have cold fuel, then it's not going to overheat as much. And if you have colder fuel, you can actually fit more fuel into the fuel cell because the fuel contracts.
Yeah, of course, it shrinks.
Shrinks, the scientific term for that. Shrinkage.
Ev, you know a lot about, and I know we I mean, that's the whole point of this pod to some extent, is because we can leverage your technical expertise, but you know a lot about cars, but have you ever picked up like a wrench or a spanner, just out of curiosity? I'm just curious.
God, I can't tune my own radio in the car, let alone...
Oh, very good. All right, look, let's talk the rest of the top 10. So in sixth spot, we saw the ever-reliable Bottas again feature. So unlike the rest of the top 5, Valtteri's team actually pushed for a 2-stop-only strategy. And up until the last few laps, which had him in 4th, the fresher tyres of both Carlos and Lewis came past him. But look, he continues to put in for Alpha, and albeit a second DNF in a row for his teammate, these results continue to iterate that aside from Yo Guan Yu, Joe Guan Yu. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry, everybody. By now you've picked up that I'm terrible at pronunciations.
Our billion listeners in China.
We're not racist. We're just not cultured.
Look, I think the results for Alpha continue to iterate that aside from Alpine, they really are kind of the best of the rest on the grid at the moment. And speaking of Alpine, Ocon continued to cement himself as the future of the team as he again grabbed points in 7th. I think it's like he's the 5th in 6 races to grab points. So teammate and possible candidate for a new drive in another team next year. And again, let's not labour on it, but there's been a lot of chatter in the press this week that Alonso is saying that he would be happy to go to a leading team and be the number 2 driver.
Yeah, he's not capable of that.
So I don't know who he's auditioning or putting that out for, but you get the feeling Alpine aren't signing him.
Yeah.
Anyways, look, he put in a pretty good audition for another team on the weekend. Saw him go from last to 9th place and secured double points for the team. So another big weekend for Alpine. I'm going to put it out there and suggest that Alpine will finish 4th in the Constructors. So pre-season, I think you would have banked your money on McLaren grabbing that. But other than Lando miraculously grabbing some points in 8th spot, and again, having overcome what I think is been kind of confirmed as tonsillitis that saw the poor lad. He was so crook, over the race day. But otherwise, McLaren have been completely non-existent this year. So whilst it was great to see Danny Rick become Australia's most experienced driver, surpassing Mark Webber with 216 F1 appearances, In yet another week, he was completely missing from the team. So whilst he made it into Q3 when Lando didn't, he finished well outside of the points, and the heat continues to turn up on him. So, boys, I made a call last week that Danny won't see the final year of his contract and that McLaren will replace him for 23. What are your thoughts on that now?
We had a little chat about this before, so Ev, please repeat what you said before. But I mean, I think that glimmer of hope that he gives us in some qualities, it's just not translating to racing. It's something's up maybe mentally with him because he's clearly got the speed. Maybe he's just not consistent. And McLaren, if they're not searching, should already be searching for his replacement. I think Ev suggested some pretty big measures that they should take. Ev, what did you say before?
I'd get rid of him now, actually.
What?
I'd get rid of him. Yeah, because he hasn't shown any improvement whatsoever. They brought upgrades this week, and he went backwards. He's just not suited that car the way that science isn't suited.
That's a massive call, man.
But what has he shown to keep him around this year?
Yeah, nothing. And he's getting paid a lot of money to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Zach came out and said that he's just really struggling with the car and he needs time. And I was a bit like, he's had fucking 18 months.
Time?
Like, granted, the car is different again to what it was last year. And, you know, to Danny, look, Danny took the risk. He left Red Bull to go to Renault and then went from Renault to McLaren. And every time he's gone, he's had to kind of get used to a car that's not set up necessarily for him. I think Renault tried to build around him, but whatever reason he left there.
They literally built around him, and then he still couldn't do it.
But he's kind of dug his own grave. Like he's jumped ship at really interesting points in time from a car development perspective, and clearly coming to McLaren when it was obvious they were kind of like Lando's their number one driver. They're investing and building that car around Lando, and Danny is really struggling to drive it. And
Carlos wasn't struggling at Renault, and Carlos wasn't struggling at McLaren. Albeit he's struggling a bit at Ferrari, but perhaps
was Carlos at Renault?
In the first Drive to Survive, they talk about how it's about him and Danny, and it's like Carlos is winning, mate. Carlos is better. I think he's And look, Danny is a PR machine. Like he is great for sponsorship. So in my mind, that might be why McLaren is holding on as long as possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's only so many James Corden pieces of content you can swallow before it just gets shit.
James Corden swallowed a lot of things in his life.
Rounding out the top 10 was AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda. And to be completely honest, I paid very little attention to his race, but we'll use this moment to again iterate and question where the fuck is Gasly. So after being a consistent top 6 driver this year, he and his team continue to struggle, iterating again why I think Alpine are the best of the rest in the midfield. Yeah. It's very strange.
Alpha aren't contending.
Yeah. Hey, look, usually I don't bother with, we usually don't bother talking through the bottom 10 because fuck it usually takes us so long to get through the top 10. But aside from those already mentioned and the usual suspects such as kind of Albon and Latifi, the only other 2 drivers I want to call out would be Vettel and Stroll. And less the actual drivers, but more their team Aston Martin, given that they were the talk of the grid for everything other than race results on the weekend. So from the moment the teams turned up to Barcelona on the weekend, there was a lot of chatter about the Aston Martin car. In the last pod, we highlighted that Barcelona was traditionally the race in the fixture that saw the biggest changes in car performances due to being a key fixture for applying new developments, mostly given the proximity to the team's factories and being about a quarter of the way through the season. And we anticipated and hence saw a lot of these developments come to fruition on the weekend. We've obviously spoken about Mercedes, but turning our attention to this Mercedes-powered team, Aston Martin's upgrades were in the headlines for all the wrong reasons because their car looked eerily like Red Bull's car. And in the world of F1, that is not okay. So, Ev, for our newbies and casual fans, can you in layman's terms explain why Aston Martin's car looking almost identical to that of Red Bull's is a problem?
You're allowed to copy... how do I put this? You're allowed to take a normal photo and look at the photo and think about, well, what makes the Red Bull so good?
So what do they call that? Reverse engineering?
Yeah.
Is that... Yeah.
You're not allowed to use any sort of scanning camera or any 3D camera. You're not allowed to use anything that would, otherwise impart greater knowledge than just a 2D image.
Yeah.
So, any reverse engineering has to be from a 2D standard photo.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why this became a big thing rather than what you've just spoken about is because a couple of is it right? Have I got this right? A couple of Red Bull employees from an engineering capacity went from Red Bull to Aston Martin?
I think it was one of the head designers from Red Bull got poached and became like a director of aerodynamics or something. So he got a promotion to join Aston Martin. This happens all the time where engineers and designers go in between teams. It's a pretty small talent pool of an industry.
Yep.
If you think about it, it's pretty exclusive.
Yep.
So everybody's kind of been at every team at some point.
Yep.
And so you're allowed to reverse engineer from a photo. You're not allowed to steal or use somebody's direct private IP.
Yep.
That would be illegal.
Yep.
And they have since come out and said, well, they did take inspiration from Red Bull for the exterior, the side pod design, that they were simultaneously designing two cars at the start of the season, and they picked one to start the season with.
With a cost cap, is that legit?
It's
people would
that's
struggle
pretty
to build one
suspicious.
car,
It's suspicious, but this has been going on since last year, and because of how different these cars are, I'm not surprised that they'd have a couple of different avenues to go down to see which one would work.
Yeah, but it's identical. Like, it's uncannily identical.
The side pod the floor's a bit different, at least on the surface.
Okay.
It's a small difference.
All right.
The interior of the car is greatly different. The architecture of the car, the suspension is greatly different. The rear wing is a bit different. So it's not as
Controversial.
kind of intense. Yeah, it's not as controversial as what Red Bull are thinking it is.
So headline wise, it's identical. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I had to laugh because someone from Aston Martin, and again, I don't know who it was. It may not have been somebody from Aston Martin, but somebody made quite a good quim and said, well, if we copied Red Bull, we would have been 2 seconds faster.
Yeah.
But look,
Yeah.
just to add to this isn't the first time Lawrence Stroll has actually been in the spotlight for this. I mean, there was the whole hoo-ha of pink Mercedes, and let's not labour on it now, but Ev, tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that a couple of years ago, the car that they ran was identical in terms of everything to do with the championship Mercedes car of the year before or something like that, wasn't it?
Yep.
What happens now? Like, what could happen now for Aston Martin?
Well, nothing, because the FIA already cleared them and did so in writing, which is pretty surprising. The FIA obviously appreciated perhaps how much Red Bull would make a storm in a teacup over this. And so they released a statement to say that, no, they've went through the CAD design, they've gone through the history of this design, and it's all fine. Again, the internals of that car are greatly different to the Red Bull, so it's not like they've stolen any IP in that sense. It's just that the side pod, and they call it the downwashing of the air over the side pod.
Yep.
And so that's not, you can't really have a trademark on that concept. So yeah, there's not really anything. And as we saw with the pink Mercedes, that car was very, very fast in the first two races. And then they couldn't.
Also, it wasn't just Red Bull complaining about it. Everyone was complaining about the pink
except
Mercedes.
surprisingly enough.
Yeah,
but then Force India Racing Point couldn't, because they don't understand the concept fundamentally. You can't upgrade it, and so you're running with the bulls for the first couple of races, and then you start falling back because everybody else is upgrading it, and you don't know what to upgrade because you don't understand that.
I don't have those plans. I didn't have those
it's like
plans.
copying.
Take another photo.
Copying somebody's homework, and then somebody asks you to write another paragraph. You're like, I can't. How am I? I didn't even bother to change the homework into my own language.
Yeah.
Leaving all things Barcelona there. We've, in typical style, obviously covered a lot of great shit here, and it is great shit. And I hope everyone's paying attention, because paying attention is vital, wouldn't you say, boys?
Oh, Haas, yeah.
Yeah, Haas, yeah. And so with that, here we are again. Questionably, the world's most ridiculous quiz. It doesn't have the polish of your Price is Rights, your Jeopardies. Shit, it doesn't even have the polish of a local trivia quiz down the road in your shitty neighbourhood pub. But alas, we're at the doors of yet another one. Now, initially when we were talking about having a quiz in the show, it was fully under the pretense that aside from the fact that you both love to argue with each other, it was built on the idea that Ev is the master and we're just his apprentices when it comes to F1 and everything about it. Now, granted, Ev, you come across great and well-versed on all things F1 in the show, but we seem to get here every week and you drop your shit. Not only do you often get the answers wrong, you get them wildly wrong. So in what was once a genuine battle of the minds, the traditionalist versus the new guy, as it stands, we've got Digby leading 6-2, and every week that gap gets bigger. So the question to you, Ev, is there any chance you're going to turn this around? How's the self-belief and the confidence? How's you been studying? How's you been paying attention?
I'm at the back of the pack. I'm calling my engineer. Like, why shouldn't we just save this
Just
engine?
shoot me now.
Why shouldn't we just save this?
shoot me.
Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing
Well,
this?
I've got cooling issues, Ev, so it's your time to catch up, mate. I'll be represented by other people over the next few weeks.
Yeah, their points don't go to your points. I'm fighting different people.
Surely, if you win, you will
it's
change
a-
your mind.
No, they
It's
will.
a battle
They-
royale.
Absolutely, they will.
It's the Royal Rumble.
No, if they win, they go to Digby's count, not to kind of some random. So, look, we're going to find out if you've actually been paying attention. But before we endure this shit show again, let's check our buzzers. So, Diggs, what do you got for us, mate?
It's George Russell.
Oh, it's George Russell. Love it. Yeah, I think you just love going with a driver's theme. You haven't had a song theme for a while.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do one next week, can I?
I saw the sun came on the radio this morning, and I just kind of kept on thinking you saying, I saw the signs. All right, Ev, put us out of our misery, please. What do you got?
We'll talk about this later. Oh.
We'll talk about it. That's
like
a
it.
dig.
I like
poor
it.
old Sergio. All right, here we go with another installment of Idiots of F1 quiz. Question 1. Please listen. Following the conclusion of this weekend's race, there is now only one driver to have scored points in every race. Who is it?
It's George Russell. It's George
Oh, that's
Russell.
your buzzer. Yeah, you're very good.
answer
Yeah.
and
You somehow
buzzer.
managed to give yourself an absolute head start just by your buzzer.
Unbelievable.
And that wasn't pre-planned. All right, not a good start for Ev, but that's all right. We've got 5 more questions to go. Question 2. Red Bull now lead the Constructors' Championship. When was the last time they led the Constructors' Championship before now?
We'll talk about this later. Was it at Silverstone last year?
Oh, wow! Yes!
Yeah.
Evan! Oh,
There you go.
yes! Yeah, we'll talk about this later. I was going to say no.
you go.
We'll talk about it now. Give me the answer. So you're right. It was. It was just. It was on the weekend of the British Grand Prix last year.
I was going to
so-
guess early last year, so I would have been wrong anyway.
There you go. That was a good one to get.
Yeah. So it's actually been 10 whole months. So yeah. Anyways, it's well done, Ev. Yes, 1-1. Right. Question 3. Why do I cheer louder when you get it right?
I know. Who you going for, Ol?
I'm sorry, Diggs. I just want a close competition. I don't care who wins.
Hey,
all
look,
right,
he's Mercedes and I'm Red Bull here. He's going to come home strong.
Question 3. It was Sergio's first podium at Barcelona. How many times previously had he tried?
It's George Russell.
We'll talk about this later.
Got Diggs.
6.
Wrong. Free hit to you, Ev.
We'll talk about this later. I'll say 8.
Wrong. 11.
Ah, damn.
11.
Really?
It's been around a while.
Yeah, that's a long time to be trying. Anyways, well done, Sergio. Question 4. Monaco is one of the most important and prestigious automobile races in the world and is one of the races that form the Triple Crown of Motorsport. What are the other 2?
I don't know.
We'll talk about this later. It's Monaco. It's Indy. It's the Indianapolis 500.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, is it the Dakar?
No, it's Le Mans. Well done,
of course
though.
it is.
Close. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Hulkenberg.
I get a half point for at least
No,
I
you
got
don't
Indy.
get a half
I
point.
got the
I
Indy.
have to nominate whether or not it's a half point up
I'll
front.
give myself a half point for that.
All right, question 5. Charles Leclerc is lining up for his 4th F1 Monaco GP this weekend. What's his best finishing position at this track?
It's George Russell.
What do you got?
Did not finish.
boy.
Finish is his best result ever at Monaco.
4 DNFs. Is it a trick question? Is that what you think it is?
This weekend's his 4th. Last question, boys. Digby's ahead 2-1. Who has the greatest winning record at Monaco?
It's George Russell. Oh, I'm guessing. Art Ayrton Senna.
Oh, fuck. You got it.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Come on.
Oh, Evan. Evan.
Oh, what a cunt. What a cunt.
Diggs, that was brilliant.
I've had cooling
Oh,
issues.
Evan,
I've had
I thought
it's
for
just-
sure you were going to get this.
I wanted to
The
quit.
way you looked at, I was like, oh, it can't be that obvious.
I thought you meant like of current drivers, by the way.
No. The bonus question would have been of the current grid.
I thought Ev would have. I thought I was guessing because you didn't jump in, and Ol was looking at me like, "You're not going to know this." I was like, "Oh, maybe it's not as easy as I thought it was."
You don't like it when I do that.
All right, well, there it is. Oh, I just snorted. Another one in the bin. Well done, Diggs. You are this week's winner again. Until next week, let's move on. Right, okie dokie, a bit of a new one for this week to keep mixing shit up. This particular part of the pod gets rotated regularly. You know, we've got quite a list now. Twat of the Week, Barbecue Bites, and now What the FAQ. So a small segment to respond to some of the questions we get asked by our wonderful listeners and followers that we've not already covered off in our blabbering. From the world of Twitter and friend of the show, Jeff, and quite relevant given our chat earlier. Ev, I'm going to point this one at you. Jeff asked, should teams be allowed to have team orders, or should every car have to race to gain places? Checo Perez would like to know.
There shouldn't be 2 drivers per team. We need to have 20 teams with 1 driver each.
Love it.
That's the answer.
And it's, yeah, okay, you've nailed it. So why does every team have 2 drivers? Why can't we have a world where 20 teams exist with 20 drivers?
I actually don't know. I don't know why. It's been that way for a long time. I think that you want to have 2 drivers in case one guy craps out, I suppose.
Imagine that. Imagine 20 teams out there. That would be fucking chaos.
It's not that. It's more boring than that, because Mercedes can tell Williams to get out of the way, or they can tell McLaren to get out of the way. Ferrari can tell Alfa Romeo to get out of the way.
Bullshit.
Red Bull, Tsunoda and Gasly know to get out of the way of a Red Bull.
Oh, speaking of, did you kind of notice that Bottas got out of the way of Lewis when he was coming through? He kind of just let him round. It's super easy.
But is that because he just wanted to finish the race and not like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He was on shit
It
tires.
just felt like, oh, there's my mate. Off you go. I'm not going to beat you. Off you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I reckon
Maybe it was PTSD.
Valtteri would do anything to beat Lewis, hands down, every day. All right, next one from another great friend of the show, Lydia. Why is Carlos Sainz's nickname Chili, and what should it be?
Chili. No idea. Because he's hot.
I figured neither of you would know this, so I actually went and did some research for our friend Lydia, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We've established I'm terrible.
It's actually Lydia.
So from Carlos's mouth, it was apparently born out of being out on the piss with his mates, where his name goes from Carlos to Charlie, from Charlie to Chili.
Okay.
He actually hates chili. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a really boring answer there.
Nicknames
it would have been so
always
much better
mate.
if it was something like he ate a chili and he shat himself, when he was younger or something. That would have been great. If I was actually to give Carlos a nickname, it'd be Pelican at the minute. Sort of shit, Carlos. I'm mad at you, and I don't want to be. All right, another one for you, I reckon, Diggs, giving your point of view on camera helmets. This one from Anna. Drone camera, love it or hate it?
I'm so glad you brought up the drone. I forgot about it.
Yeah,
It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't even, you couldn't even, the track was off to the left and it was just flying over the grass. It
Seemed like a cheap one. Like it was stuttery. Like
the worst.
you can get expensive drones that look like Hollywood quality.
I'm assuming they weren't allowed to fly over the track. So that was they obviously allowed like 100 meters to fly it. And I thought they would just caught it at a bad time the first time. Then they kept showing it. It was exactly
just kept doing the same thing over. Yeah.
And then they go, oh, we'll be seeing a lot more of that in the coming weeks. I was like, I fucking hope not.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of love and a lot of hate for it, like the original kind of helmet camera. But look, just very quickly, TV spectatorship is obviously vital for the growth of sport. We've spoken a lot about it, but it's important to trial new things to continuously evolve the viewing spectacle, and I'm all for it. But when it comes to drone footage, there are other sports that do it 10 times better than what I saw on the F1. And I don't know, maybe it's because the F1 cars are hard to keep up with, which makes it feels rushed and just a bit unpolished.
I feel like when they chose to do it, it was a good spot to do it. There must be a rule about not having it over the track.
I want to see it like sitting behind, like right hanging off the wing, like they do in the rally.
Get the wire cameras. Do you know the ones that have the footy and it won't drop, so you can just run it over. But I reckon they're not allowed to do it properly.
Last question from our friends and friends of the show, from Wilson, albeit slightly reworded. How much would you be willing to actually put down in cash now for Lewis Hamilton to win the championship?
$0.
Oh, you okay?
I've said it from the start.
Think...
George has got it over him. I'm not backing down from that one bit.
Yeah, all right. And Ev?
Yeah, I probably would actually.
How much? I want to know how much you're willing to... No, I'm not going to
I
make
don't
you
know.
bet on it, but I'm just curious as to how
All
much...
the money.
You reckon?
Right. He's just said all of his money. So at the end of this season, everybody, Evan is going to be homeless.
No, I said all the money.
Yeah, okay. Or what? Not all your money.
Yeah.
I'd bet,
right. So
I'd
you're
bet
putting a
all
house
of
on it.
Wilson's
Okay.
money.
There you
Idiot.
go. All interesting topics, all part of our bid to help
I
you
like
idiots
that.
out there understand more about this great sport, the drivers, and all the shit in between. So if you've got some questions as you go throughout the season that you'd love our take on, because obviously what we say matters, jump on our socials or on our website and send it through. Hit us up. We will actually feature this session regularly.
Let's do that every week. I really enjoyed that. We should do that.
Yeah,
more.
it's a good one. It's good. All right, weekend preview. Let's chat Monaco. Boys, this weekend we're off to Monaco. Well, actually, we're not, but you know what I mean. On that, have either of you guys ever been there?
No.
No, never. I'd love to.
Well, I have.
I can't afford to.
I went there 15 years ago, right? And I just want to throw this in because I feel like this is again on brand, but also just I'm going to watch Ev slowly die here. So 15 years ago I went, and at the expense of the poor folk that lived there, I went on a
my
Kentucky
God.
tour. So we had a night out
You're
in
such
Monaco,
trash.
and we ended up at the Grand Casino there. So here I was in the middle of the casino tables, and I
Shitting
was
himself.
hammered. It's everything I hate about Aussies on tour, to be
Oh
honest
my
with you.
God.
I was loud.
Wow.
I was an obnoxious wanker. I'd had far too much to drink. And
Wanted
other
a-
than the
I wanted
car
a
park,
James
which I
Bond
may
drink.
add was full of Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bentleys, the only memory I have is that of trying to do a spin on the casino floor. And in doing so, I collected a waiter who had a huge tray of drinks. And the drinks obviously went everywhere, and the whole place just stopped. I think I just kept spinning, but yeah, that's my Monaco story. So, if you
jeez.
wanted a polarizing...
I like that that's what you think happened.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I got thrown out, to be honest with you.
I've got someone, when we did the Monday Bash, the girl that was looking after us, she was like,
Monaco to Monday.
looking after the artists. She was telling me her Monte Carlo story. She was a boat hand on one of the yachts on the water.
Oh, yeah.
And in the middle of the night, she hopped off on her roller skates and roller skated along the track. And she got caught like halfway around, and she got chased like down the tunnel area. And she had to get back.
I wish
to the
she'd.
boat.
I wish she'd like be making.
like,
Imagine if
What's
she was
on
making
roller
like
skates?
engine noises as like people were like running behind her and like.
Probably was.
All right, so look, all of that classness aside, Monaco is one of the most prestigious and storied tracks of the fixture. It's an incredible backdrop and an incredible, if not almost untouchable part of the world for us commoners, unless you're drunk and hammered and being a knob. But Ev, it's a track full of potential, a street circuit to a T with minimal room for error, but it's somewhat renowned as being boring and can be uneventful if not for safety cars, reliability issues. Why and how is that the case given the track layout?
Because it's too narrow.
Okay.
You can't
overtake.
You can't fit a 2 meter wide car and then another 2 meter wide car for there to be enough room, especially when you've got barriers on each side.
So Monaco's been on the fixture for a long time. The cars were they once upon a time so much smaller than they are now?
Oh yeah,
Might
yeah,
be a dumb question.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
all right.
half the size, or maybe
Yeah,
not half,
right,
but easily 2/3 the size. Even back in the 90s and early 2000s. So ever since we've had this, maybe 10 years ago, I think it was when we started this hybrid era.
Yep.
All the hybrid engine components take up a lot of room, and then
Yeah, okay.
we've switched to having full race length fuel tanks, and that takes up a lot of room as well. And then the safety stuff takes up a lot more room, and we've got huge tires now that takes up a lot more room, and
And now the cars are heavier than ever, right?
yeah,
so that
yeah,
can't
yeah.
be good
So
either.
I'm not. I'm. This is my least looking forward to race.
But tune in. Do tune in, everyone.
Unless it's rain. If it's raining there, it's like it's almost too chaotic
Yeah.
when it
Yeah,
rains.
yeah.
I mean, in saying that though, you do have some like historical moments. Like big things can happen. I'm sure. Like some of the crashes have been really important crashes. Like
Yeah.
you know, game changing
Yeah, yeah.
crashes. Daniel winning a few years back, or even not winning when his team wasn't ready for him. Like big things do happen, but I think
Yeah.
in general,
Look,
not a lot happens.
Yeah, but we go back to what we were talking about earlier about this idea that Barcelona was great because it was an amazing race that wasn't manufactured by crashes and safety cars. And now we roll into Monaco, which again is a wonderful old circuit, but we're going to be at the mercy to some extent of
I got a new idea because I know that so many people out in the media listen to us because things keep changing 2 weeks after we've said that they should change.
I know. Like prophets.
Have two cars, small car, big car. Small car for the small tracks.
Make
big
everybody
cars
go
for big
and
tracks.
make
when
it
you get
an
to Monte Carlo,
F2.
here's the old small car.
Well,
We're
if
all
Aston
racing
Martin-
in classic cars today.
If Aston Martin can claim to build two fucking cars, then why not? I like it, Diggs.
Exactly.
That's
I reckon
innovative
it'd be
thinking,
cool.
my friend. All right, so Ev, noting obviously what we've just spoken about the track there and the reality of the new cars, as I do every week, I want to just ask you, who is this track going to serve better? So obviously we saw Ferrari's high downforce setup, letting them down against Red Bull's low downforce setup previously. But on the basis that they go into this weekend with a similar setup, is that going to serve Ferrari well here?
It'll actually serve Mercedes the best. Because the Mercedes is shown to be from Barcelona the best at low speed corners.
Okay.
They have the most grip, the highest speed in the low speed corners.
Okay.
And Monaco, you don't really get enough speed to make it a high speed corner. So this could be their coming out party.
All right, so Diggs, being the home of Monegasque Charles Leclerc, and we alluded to his previous form in Monaco in our quiz earlier, but could he and Ferrari break, against what Ev said then obviously about Mercedes, but could he and Ferrari break his Monaco curse this weekend and run home for the win? Just quickly, do you think that he could be Drivers' Championship and Ferrari potentially Constructors' Champions again after this weekend?
Being a big Wallabies fan, I've seen, like the Australian rugby team, I've seen them unable to break a hoodoo for 25 plus years against the All Blacks in Eden Park, right? So something like this will be so heavily playing on Charles's mind.
Yep.
And don't be surprised, especially after what happened last week, is very likely going to make a mistake again. And I'm not going to feel sorry. I feel sorry for him if he does, but I really won't be surprised. It's a really hard thing to get past. When you're driving a track which you've never completed before, you're probably overthinking it now. You've passed the point of unlucky. It's now shit. So he's either going to drive really badly, like a really slow race, or he's going to fuck it.
All right, well, with that, let's talk Ollie's Odds, a segment that for the first three races was a genuine go-to for your tip on the race winner. It's since turned into a joke. It's pathetic. I was so off the mark last week. I called Sainz, Verstappen, and Hamilton result. The only thing you could credit me on is that I was actually one of the only people in the world that wrote off Leclerc. So looking at this week, I'm backing the end of the Monaco curse for Leclerc. I'm sorry, I'm rolling the dice here, boys. And I think he'll be followed by Perez and Verstappen 2-3. So completely blown out everything that you guys have just said. So on the basis that Leclerc gets fastest lap, I think he'll take back Drivers' Championship. Last bit for today, gents. Our very own quickfire round where I'll throw out a few topics we've lightly touched on or missed altogether to round out in 20 seconds each. And given how much we've covered today, you're 100% on the clock. I'm cutting you off at 20 seconds, so get your shit together. Capiche? Topic 1. Mercedes marching on. With 16 races left, Mercedes are currently 75 points off Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. Knowing what we know today, is there a genuine chance Mercedes could win this year's championship? Diggs.
Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes, if things are going to keep improving like they have been. I think they showed but just a glimpse of what they're capable of this year. Their car wasn't fully ready and they still looked like massive contenders. I have no reason to believe they can't do better as the weeks go on. Red Bull apparently have spent almost all their money on their upgrades. Christian already complaining that they're running out of money. So Mercedes, I'm going to call it. They're going to be up there. Maybe
they're going to need a lot of luck.
It's a very long season.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Mercedes are on an upwards trajectory.
Yeah.
Even if they don't see, if it's a 3-horse race, you're taking points off each other. It's not just a 2-horse race like it has been forever. So I think anybody could win.
Look, let's be honest. It doesn't matter if Mercedes wins or not. If they're competing, it's a win for the F1. Right, topic 2. Monaco Marvel. We mentioned it's one of the most boring races and will be even more limiting for the new cars. But if you're F1 looking to grow the sport, do you bin it? Change it or leave it as it is? Diggs.
I don't think you can bin it. It's too prestigious and important. It's a big centerpiece of the year. Maybe go like I suggested before. Maybe do a smaller car for the race for all the smaller tracks, or do a classic car race. I don't know. Think of something to keep the race interesting before binning it. I think it'd be stupid to get rid of the track.
I think you have to, as much as I'm not interested in it. You have to keep it because it's the Monaco Grand Prix. It's like having Ferrari.
Yeah.
You can't have Formula One without Ferrari.
Yep.
But yeah, what is the point if there isn't actually any racing?
And there's not really a lot of room to make change with that layout, is there? It's so tight.
Yeah, that's right. Like, it's actually you're incapable of racing. If I told you I've got a new track, but it's not wide enough for the cars to even overtake one another, you'd be like, well, why would you bother doing that?
Yeah.
It's like a one-lane highway.
Yeah. Good shout.
Yeah, so I don't... Yeah. They are planning to reduce the size and weight of the cars moving forward from the 2006... 26
okay.
revisions. So like with Porsche and Audi coming in at that juncture. So they are aware of that the cars are too big and too heavy for every track, basically. So.
All right. Topic 3. Take your pick. You've got no difference in car. Everything is equal by way of variables. Who are you taking? Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, or Hamilton? And why?
I'm taking Russell because of his mental attitude compared to Hamilton. I think Hamilton's possibly got it over him on the driving skills. He's from what we know in history, but Russell's showing himself to be pretty good. So I'm going to go Russell. I love Russell. Let's go Russell.
It'd probably have to be Hamilton just because he's won 7 championships.
Yep.
In saying that, George has outperformed him all year, so I wouldn't be against you for that. Same with Leclerc, who's outperformed Sainz all year, but I think he's been a bit inconsistent. He's made mistakes when other people haven't. And I just don't think I'd really get along with Max Verstappen.
It's weird. I would totally take Max, but I think it's more like it's kind of an alignment of symmetry and attitude, right? Like you're a lot calmer and collected, and so Lewis is a great pick for you. I don't get the connection for you, Diggs, with George, but me and everybody knows I can be a bit hot under the collar sometimes. So I think Max is, and he's a fucking.
Why would that be a good idea to be with the other guy, like the other inflammatory
Yeah. Well, he and
guy?
I would just fight all the time,
that's right?
Like, yeah. It'd be the first F1 team in the news all the time for the owner.
You'd be
and the
trying to
driver
punch
beat
him,
the
but
shit
he's
out of
wearing a
each other.
helmet, and so
you
hurt your hand.
All right, last topic. Help me, I'm Paul Horner. During the week, Christian Horner has come out and voiced his concerns about teams that may end up in a position of not being able to put cars on the track towards the back of the season due to cost cap restrictions. It's said that he and a few of the leading teams, including Ferrari, are suggesting the cost cap needs to be increased, whilst the likes of Alpine, Haas and Williams, etc. have all rejected the position, iterating that that's the point of the cost cap, to manage over an entire year and plan for unintended outcomes. If you're the FIA, what do you do?
If I'm the FIA, I'm like, well, I'm sorry, Christian, you were given a budget, stick to your budget. All the lower teams, no problem with it. Maybe, Christian, you just can't do all the things that you're used to doing. Get used to it, bud. That's what a cost cap is. If it means you have to miss a few races, that's your mismanagement, not the FIA's problem. So, jog on, mate.
I think that it's quite telling. Well, so Ferrari did say this, but they used a different point or a different point of view, which I do agree with. Christian Horner became instantly defensive when Ferrari insinuated that Red Bull had already spent a lot of money on upgrade, because every race so far they've brought upgrades, and he became kind of surprised. Well, not surprisingly defensive, because I expected of him, but Christian was very defensive about this, as if saying, mind your own business, and so that's quite revealing, I feel. And now if he's saying, well, some teams might not be able to make it to the end of the season, I'm like, buddy, you mean you won't be able to? Maybe you shouldn't have brought all these upgrades. I don't mind if you bring all your upgrades early, but you have to live with that decision.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of that was the point of the cost cap, wasn't it? To kind of
so
reduce,
Ferrari.
Well,
Ferrari's point of view, which I think Toto's also repeated. To say nothing for the big 3 teams agreeing in different ways. But when the cost cap was written, the 140 million euro, that was written however many years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now. and it should have come into effect last year, but it got postponed because of COVID. Since then, we've had global inflation has skyrocketed, and so it's unfair. Perhaps you could argue it's unfair that you've got this cost cap when inflation is therefore meant that money is more expensive than it was. I think that's a reasonable argument that you could make. But
it's a fair point.
So if you were to adjust for inflation, I could see that happening. Otherwise, no. Like you just
pull your head in
with it. Like
deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Some juicy bits and pieces there. Curious to know what others think out there. If you can be bothered, let us know your thoughts to any of these points. Not just for today's episode, for previous and future ones. We're always open to learning ourselves and understanding others' points of view. And if we don't agree, we'll just delete it.
There you go.
All right. The wrap up. Gents, that's it. Wave that checkered flag, baby. That's us for another week. Woo! Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and having a chuckle with us. Remember, if you've had a giggle, learnt something, generally just enjoyed the chat, please do rate, review, share, and by all means, get in touch, as I said. Whilst for some, you've heard us a few times now, but, we're still very new. We're only 9 episodes in, and we're being new to this and new to the scene. We really do rely on your support, and we're very thankful for it. So keep spreading the word and keep tuning in. Also, make sure you check us out on the socials, TikTok, Insta, via Idiots of F1. We took a few grabs from our last episode and sprinkled them throughout the social world last week, and we've certainly offended many, and it's great conversation, good fun. Digby's enjoying it dramatically. Now, Ev and I will be back next week as our one and only red-headed friend Digz heads for surgery. Digz, from all of us and all your adoring Idiot fans, hope it all goes well, mate. We're looking forward to getting you back, hopefully episode after next. And until then, as always, you idiots, we are your idiots in racing. See you next time.
Play the music.
Play the music, DB. Play the music. Woo.